the Shiva Sutras. We're going to continue from where we left off. In the first video, we talked about the first two tattvas and the first four sutras. In this video, we're going to talk about the next three tattvas and sutras. The difference in count is because some sutras and some tattvas are either very easy to talk about in pairs or extremely dense and extremely powerful, have to break down one sutra at length to cut it down, understand, and digest powerful stuff. Takes a bit out of me as well. This is a book that is powerful. I'm going to say it. With that said, I'm going to put words on screen if I'm reading directly from this book, commentary from J. Deva Singh. And as we go through each tattva and each sutra, I'm going to give you my interpretation, my insight into that which I'm reading. With that said, let's start. The tattvas of the universal experience. The third tattva, Sadashiva, the will to affirm this side of the universal experience, is known as Sadashiva. In Sadashiva, will is predominant. The experience of this stage is I am this. Sadashiva tattva is the first manifestation. In this universal experience, both the subject and object are consciousness. Consciousness in this aspect becomes perceptible to itself, hence a subject and an object. If you ever hear Kashmir Shaivites or people following this type of philosophy talk about the mirror, they use the mirror analogy. This supreme consciousness has created a version of itself that knows itself. It comes from this tattva, the third tattva, Sadashiva. Now, this is a complete departure from Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta would say, how could Nirguna Brahm create a version of self that knows itself? That is some type of attribute. In this case, as we've established in the axiom in Paramashiva, Paramashiva is what? Both transcendental and immanent. And as part of its immanent nature, as part of the expression of its total power, it can create a version of itself that knows itself. And the phenomenon of recognition of parts is explained here. And this perfectly ties into the next tattva, Ishvara tattva, the fourth tattva. The next stage of the divine experience is that where idam, this side of the total experience, becomes a little more defined. This is known as Ishvara tattva. It is the distinct blossoming of the universe. At this stage, jnana, or knowledge, is predominant. The experience of Sadashiva is I am this. The experience of Ishvara is this am I. It is the direct experience of looking at a mirror. What happens first? I am this. And then through knowledge and inquiry, you can only come to the conclusion that this am I. There's no external type of force that happens. It has to come from some type of intellectual understanding that, the recognition that these two entities, the reflection and the subject, are actually the same. And that's why we go from Sadashiva to Ishvara. That's why we go from I am this to this am I. That's why it goes from third tattva to fourth tattva, because in the experience of looking at a reflection, it is such that it goes in that type of sequence. And this perfectly explains the phenomenon of subject and object. That's where these types of ideas even come from in the first place. And then this perfectly melds into the fifth tattva, which is Sadvidya tattva. In Sadvidya tattva, the I and the this side of experience are equally balanced. The I and this are recognized in this state with such equal clarity that while both I and this are still identified, they can clearly be distinguished in thought. The experience of this stage may be called diversity and unity, while the this is clearly distinguished from I. It is still felt to be part of the I or self. What is I is this. What is this is I. Hence, it is called the perfect or pure order, a manifestation in which the real nature of the divine is not yet veiled. We understand the parts of the whole. I understand my hands, I understand my face, I understand my mouth. I could talk about all different parts of my body, and still recognize that it is all me at the end of the day. In that type of loose analogy, we can talk about things in parts and still recognize the whole. The phenomenon of that is explained here through different tattvas. It perfectly aligns with our understanding of us as the subject navigating the world. We, the observer, are navigating the world, seeing different objects, and obviously those objects have a relation to us and we have a relation to it. If everything is truly one, then we can acknowledge that and at the same time see that there's a difference. The phenomenon of such concepts is explained through these tattvas, and that is very important. That Kashmir Shaivism, that the tattvas are phenomenological reasonings for the experience that an individual has on a daily basis. With that said, that is 3 tattvas already. Pretty heavy stuff, in my opinion. Heavy stuff. This is some stuff right here. And we're gonna move on to the sutras. The sutras that we're all so interested in. The 5th Shiva Sutra, Udyamo Bhairava. Udyamo. In this sutra does not mean exertion or effort. The word is formed from ut plus yam. Ut means up, upwards, and yam means to raise, to hold. Therefore, this means raising up, elevation of consciousness. The sutra therefore means that a sudden flash or opening out of transcendental consciousness is Bhairava or Shiva. That is, since this sudden flash is the means of Bhairava consciousness, it may be called Bhairava. At any given moment, bam, you're enlightened. And this perfectly aligns with our understanding of an immanent and transcendent consciousness, an ultimate Paramashiva. And it presupposes something quite interesting, that we as individuals within our experience at any given time can be enlightened and yet are not enlightened. What is there to do in this Leela, in this play that we call life? That the experience of this life is important to the whole of consciousness, that there is something that needs to be done, that an experience must happen, that things need to play out in a certain way, that you are phenomenally here in perfect order of all of creation, from Parama Shiva himself, themself, perfectly aligned for you to be in the position that you're in to play out something. It is possible within the sutras that no one needs to worry about moksha, no one needs to worry about enlightenment, because the time will come for everyone, and Shiva, Bhairava will know the time for you. This is the ultimate transcendent immanent reality of Lord Shiva. The 6th Shiva Sutra. God, that's a mouthful. Shakti Chakra Sati Tane Visvasamhara. By union with the collective whole of Shaktis through intensive fixed awareness, there is the disappearance of the universe as something separate from consciousness. What did we learn from the 2nd Tattva? That Shakti polarizes consciousness into aham and idam, I and this. This is the explanation for all phenomena that we see before us. All particularity is because of Shakti. The world and everything in it is Shakti coded. It is the divine feminine. All particularity is the divine mother. Now, particularity is a mode. And what is yoga? Yoga is the cessation of all modes. It takes the sum total of all particularity and makes it into one. And what happens when yoga and sadhana are introduced? It makes it so that Lord Shiva, Bhairava is obvious. The universe as something separate from consciousness no longer exists. The 7th Shiva Sutra, this is the big one. Jagrat Svapana Susupta Bhidi Turya Bhoga Sambhava. Even during the 3 states of consciousness in waking, dreaming, and profound sleep, the rapturous experience of I consciousness of the 4th state abides. This is like how the Mandukya Upanishad talks about Om. The A is the waking state, the U is the dreaming state, and the M is the dark, profound sleep that is dreamless. And then the silence afterward is the sound before 2 things collided. This is the unmanifest. Now, when one understands that they are separate from these 3 modes, the waking, the dreaming, and the deep sleep, and that there is something more fundamental and more independent than these modes. This is Turiya, this is the fourth mode, but it's not really the fourth of anything. It is the floor in which these other modes can even sit on to exist. It's only talked about as a fourth for our understanding. And this is not just described as an intellectual idea. This is described as a rapturous experience, something that is all encompassing. That, yes, that once this is realized, that once this is understood, that Shiva is you and you are Shiva and all this creation is one, that this Turiya, that this floor is actually alive, vibrating, and completely immersive in such a sense that it can create complete and total bliss within the self. And yeah, that will be for now the Shiva Sutras what we've gone so far. Man, I am exhausted. Um Hari Byo Namaha. Hari Om. It is real powerful stuff. It is something else, man. And again, I don't script these. Maybe I should, but like, I'm racking my brain here, and it is something. It is something to behold that this exists for us. I don't know. I'm in awe. I'm awestruck by the level of possibility that can come from this. The knowledge and the understanding of the universe is such a way. It's such a unique and spelt out way to describe phenomenon. Oh, it's like ancient philosophy, so relevant to us trying to figure out who we are. Timeless, absolutely timeless. This is the Hindu conceptualist signing out.